Hey, lockdown lunching. It's fun, isn't it? I mean, one of the worst things for this lockdown for me is the fact that we got to make lunch every day. You can't go out and kind of get lunch in a cafe, or the kids aren't having lunch at school, so it's kind of everyday lunch. For me, I'm a barbecue chef and I try and cook outside as much as possible, and actually on a beautiful day like this it just adds a tiny bit more adventure to that kind of repetitive cooking that we're all kind of doing at the moment. So yeah, today I'm going to cook you a recipe from my vegetarian barbecue book, Charred. I didn't write this book for vegetarians, I wrote it for kind of meat eaters and kind of regular barbecuers really. It's not specifically for vegetarians. But barbecue does have quite a reputation of being very meat heavy, quite macho, and I just wanted to show people that there's a lot of colour, taste, texture, flavour, all those good things. Vegetables are so versatile. Meat's quite one-dimensional by comparison. So yeah, a lot of lovely colourful things in here. And today I'm going to cook one of my favourite dishes from the book, which is a kind of layered stack of grilled butternut squash with feta and herbs and garlic and pomegranate molasses, lots of really good colourful stuff. So I'll show you how I do it. So before I can cook my squash, I need to light my barbecue. Now I'm using a chimney starter here and some good charcoal. So you just need to fill up your chimney. By good charcoal, I mean good sustainable British charcoal. This is my favourite charcoal, Whittle and Flame. You can find them online, but yeah, look for good sustainable charcoal if you can. So you fill up your chimney starter, and then these are little natural fire lighters that I love using. It's just kind of wax and wood shaving, so no chemicals at all. You just need to light the fire lighter and then pop the chimney on top. A chimney starter is the easiest way by far of lighting your barbecue, so definitely invest in one of these if you're keen on barbecuing. You could of course cook this recipe inside using a griddle pan on your hob, but it wouldn't be so much fun, would it? So I'm just going to let that get hot and then we're going to put it in the barbecue. Right, that chimney of charcoal is pretty much lit by now. With good charcoal, you don't need to wait till it's lit all the way to the top because there's no chemicals in there that you need to burn off. So I'm going to get that into my barbecue. Like that. And shut the flaps down. So here's my squash. I've just cut it into kind of centimetre and a half thick rings. Now because squash is quite a dense vegetable, I'm going to do what is called indirect cooking. So I just tipped the charcoal onto this side of the grill, and then on this side there's no heat underneath it. So the squash is going to go here, in directly away from the heat. And that's one of the best kind of barbecue tips I can give you actually, is always set up your grill so you've got charcoal on half and nothing on the other half, because that gives you space to move your food around depending on how quickly you want it to cook and the kind of density of the vegetable or the meat. So it's a really useful kind of barbecuing skill to be able to cook like that. So I'm just going to slide the squash onto the barbecue just like that, off the heat source, and then shut the lid and leave it to cook slowly and gently for about half an hour. I'll probably check it halfway through. But the lid is really important for barbecuing. If you've got one with a lid, it's really useful to use it because it just keeps the heat in a bit more. Right, so those squash have had about 15 minutes now, I think, so I'm going to have a little look. They're smelling good. Yeah, you can see they're just starting to colour, and I can feel by just sort of touching them gently that they're getting there. They're not done yet, so I'm just going to turn them over to cook the other side. The danger if you cooked them too close to the heat, these dense vegetables, is that they kind of blacken on the outside and they don't kind of get soft and lovely on the inside, which is why you cook them off the heat. So I'm just going to turn those over shut the lid again and keep them cooking. And while they're cooking, I'm going to move my camera down here and show you what I'm going to make to go with them. So the best thing I think about this recipe is, and actually the best thing about all good recipes, is a kind of combination of different textures and tastes and flavours and colours, and you know, it's just like you get lots of different stuff going on in one dish. So this squash gets layered up with lots of good stuff. So in here I've got a really lovely juicy pomegranate, and into that I got a couple of spring onions, some flat leaf parsley and some fresh mint. I'm just going to get that into there to make a kind of really quick and easy salsa. And then this is one of my favourite ingredients, pomegranate molasses. You can get this in the supermarkets now. It's pretty easy to find, or online obviously, or Middle Eastern supermarkets, but I just picked this up in my supermarket. So a couple of tablespoons of that probably, a bit of salt and a bit of pepper. And then that just gets stirred together, super easy. And that'll just sit there, and those flavours will kind of, you know, get used to each other whilst the squash finishes cooking. So that's one thing to go with our butternut squash. Pop that one here. And then the next thing, some really kind of creamy Greek yogurt. And into that, a clove of garlic. Again, a little bit more salt and a little bit more pepper. You know, if you're cooking your meals from scratch, you can afford to be fairly generous with the salt, because most salt in our diets comes from kind of hidden stuff, you know, ready meals and kind of processed food. So if you're cooking your stuff from scratch, you can be pretty generous. Now this here, let me show you these. This is Aleppo pepper flakes, also called pul biber. It adds a lovely kind of slightly citrusy, lemony heat. It's not too hot. It's quite a good chili to get kids used to kind of chili heat. I'm just going to stir that all together to make a kind of lovely garlicky yogurt to go on top. That's those two things ready. So I'm going to walk away again. Wait for my squash to be finished. Right, so that squash has had about half an hour now. Great British weather, it's started to rain, but we're going to persevere. The show must go on. It's looking pretty good. It's soft all the way through, and it's sort of beautifully caramelised. I probably should have said before, but I don't ever peel squash. Partly because I'm too lazy, but also when it cooks, particularly on a barbecue, it takes on a beautiful kind of chewy texture that I really love. So the next bit of this recipe, just an old baking sheet, and I'm going to put the squash on there. You could use foil if you don't have a baking sheet you want to put on the barbecue. In fact, if you had a squash that wasn't kind of so holy, this is a particularly holy one. If you had one that wasn't, it was more kind of whole layers, you wouldn't even need to bother with this. Because what you're going to do now is, I've got some lovely feta here, and I'm just going to get that onto it. Oh no, I'm not. I've totally forgotten a step. Idiot I am. Just rewind that in your brains. That pomegranate molasses that I made the dressing with, I'm going to brush a little bit more of that over the cooked squash, and that's just going to go beautiful and sticky and gorgeous. I love this stuff. It's kind of sweet and sour at the same time. It's beautiful. I'm just going to get that on. You wouldn't brush this on before the squash was cooked, because it's got a high sugar content and it would just kind of cause it to burn. I can hear that kind of sizzling already. So I've got that onto the squash. Now I go back to the feta, and then that goes on top. And because it's on a tray, it doesn't matter, it's going to melt. Feta takes on that really beautiful kind of soft, almost like mousse-like texture when it's hot. I love it. So I'm going to pop that on there. And then just shut the lid for a sec and slide it. You can put it over the heat now a bit more. I'm just going to shut the lid and just let that melt, just literally for a 30 seconds, a minute or something. Right, so a minute later, that is smelling amazing. Shut the barbecue. Yeah, that's looking pretty good, isn't it? So I'm going to layer it up now. I don't know where you're going to be able to see this. Let me just fiddle with my camera a sec. There we go. It's always tricky when you're just filming with one camera to know kind of where to put everything. So sorry if this is a bit amateurish. Right, so what I want to do is just use a sort of slice to build myself a beautiful stack. So that kind of pomegranate salsa, and then another one, and then I'm pretty hungry today, so I'm just going to kind of keep layering this up basically. Another one, maybe one more. What do you think? Let's go for one more. So put that beautiful bit. So I've probably made enough for two here, but you know, you could double this recipe to feed however many people you wanted to feed, as usual. And then onto that last little bit of the pomegranate, and then a great big dollop of that yogurt, because that is just really, really good. Bit of pepper, and finally I'm going to, because I love this chili so much, like I said, it's not particularly spicy, it's just sort of beautiful and citrusy. There we go. That is a, move the camera up now, that's a kind of stack of pomegranates with kind of feta, pomegranate sort of salsa with mint and parsley and chili, and then a really, really beautiful kind of garlicky yogurt on top. So yeah, recipe from my book Charred. I hope you enjoyed that.